Try to get quiet here usually. Takes a while. Whereas throughout our history, women have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our community and our local community, and whereas women play critical economic, cultural, and social roles in every aspect of life, and whereas despite hardship and discrimination, women have strived and sacrificed for equality and fairness in communities across the nation, and whereas women have been leaders securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, including in the abolitionist movement, the emancipation movement, the industrial labor movement, the civil rights movement, and the peace movement. And whereas women were particularly important in the establishment of early charitable, philanthropic, and cultural institutions in our nation, and whereas the city of Des Moines is proud to honor the history and contributions of women in our community throughout our state and nation. Now, therefore, I, Connie Bozen, on behalf of the City Council and the residents of Des Moines, do hereby proclaim March 2025 as Women's History Month. So, behalf of all our people that currently work within our city, we have some of our employees. I think we have some more out there, but we want to appreciate all that was done. I had the pleasure of attending the Gertrude Rush Gala for the first African-American attorney in Des Moines in 1921, and she helped start the National Bar Association. So again, to hear the history of what difference women have made is great. So anyway, I will present this. And we'll all have a picture. I'd like to call to order the Municipal Housing Agency Governing Board meeting for March 24th, 2025. The first item is a roll call.
Bozen.
Here.
Simonson. Here. Voss.
Here.
Coleman. Here. Westergaard. Here. Mandelbaum.
Here.
Gatto.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Item 2 is approving the agenda as presented and/or as amended.
Move.
It's been moved. It's been moved and seconded. Please vote.
Seven yes.
Motion carries. The next item is item 3, approving issuance of 40 project-based vouchers to Greater Des Moines Supportive Housing for a project at 1050 6th Avenue, Board Communication Number 25-116.
Move.
Been moved and seconded. Please vote.
Seven yes.
Motion carries. Item 4, setting the date of hearing on items regarding the budget for 4/7/25. A is on amendment to the annual budget for the current fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025, and B is on proposed budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026.
Your Honor, I'll move 4, A and B.
It's been moved and seconded. Please vote.
Seven yes.
Motion carries. I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Just take a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We are now adjourned. Our regular meeting will be at 5 PM. Few minutes. I'd like to call the March 24th, 2025 Des Moines City Council meeting to order. Please take the roll.
Boson,
Here.
Simonson,
Here.
Voss,
Here.
Coleman,
Here.
Westergaard. Here. Mandelbaum,
Here.
Gatto.
Here.
We have a quorum.
The next item, motion is approved. The next item is approving agenda as presented and/or as amended. Consent item agendas 3 through 39. 4B has been withdrawn. Inspections are incomplete. Number 5 is updated. Remove prime spot. Inspections are incomplete. 23 is withdrawn by Engineering and Real Estate Division. On the regular agenda items, those are 40 through 49. 44B has been added. Final consideration of ordinance above. Waiver requested by applicant. Requires 6 votes. Number 49 is updated. The speakers list.
Mayor Connie, could we reschedule item 48 for the April 7th meeting?
I will add that to the list.
I'm okay with rescheduling it, but I think one thing that would be helpful, since this is about the conflict of interest, there is I think this whole conversation was triggered in part by one paragraph that was at the end of a confidential memo that city legal provided. And I think any future discussion would be better if we waive the privilege for, it's just I think the paragraph, the first paragraph on page 6 of the October 28, 2024 memo. And I think that will, allowing the public as well as, and others to see that paragraph will help have a more informed conversation. And so my hope is that we can get that, or I'd maybe, if you're moving to delay that I'd add waiving privilege for that one paragraph to the delay so that we can have a better conversation 2 weeks from now.
I don't know what the paragraph is.
We don't even know what.
I mean, I can't vote, I can't vote on that. I don't know
Right.
what the paragraph is.
Is the question to include that with the item, to waive the privilege in 2 weeks?
Well,
At which point then I could get everybody the language again.
Right.
I mean, I want to make sure the public can see the language in advance, so I don't know.
Then you'll need to do that now and have a vote on that.
I mean, that to me is, if we're going to delay it, I mean,
Why wouldn't we just bring it out with the language and then when we bring it to the meeting?
well, because I don't think the public will have an understanding of, I mean, I think it's important for the public to see that specific language, and they won't have a chance beforehand. I mean, if we can do it, you know, if the attorney can just check with counsel on whether or not we're okay to waive after folks have had a chance to look at it, but I know there are at least several council members who've looked at it and are probably comfortable addressing it right now.
No idea what it is.
I think all council members should feel comfortable to address it now, and if council members don't have it in front of us, how can we do that? So the question is, how can that language be brought forth so that, can't the public see it at the meeting in 2 weeks from now?
When we,
Yeah, I mean, that's fine if we just are able to share it at the meeting, I suppose. I think it's less than ideal in terms of allowing the public to prepare for the meeting, but I think they can see it at the meeting.
we should be having an open discussion at our meeting with that language in it if that is the crux of it, but I don't even know which portion, I know the language, but which portion is the language? So I think it's unfair to, at this time.
That's fine.
Because I think we can amply give people, and we can have discussion with it at the time of the meeting.
I would just like to add, people are going to be asking for it now. Is there any way we can get permission to make that public if we so choose to? If somebody asks me about it, can I give them that one paragraph
Is it in the language?
confidential?
No. The confidentiality is for the city council as a whole. It cannot be waived by an individual council member. It would have to be the council deciding formally to waive the privilege
Right,
on that.
but that's what I'm saying. Can we vote to just waive the privilege
Oh, we
to,
already have.
for us to release it?
Wordings.
I mean, does that make sense? I just,
I'm not, I think that's the question right now, is whether council wants to vote to release the paragraph now, or whether there's going to be a vote at the subsequent meeting.
I think the bigger issue, we don't know what the paragraph is for sure of the confidential. We know what's in our agenda item and what the wording was that was to why we were looking at changing it. But I don't know exactly how impactful that one paragraph is going to be. I'd like to see, because I think it's pretty self-described on the agenda, what
If
we
I
have.
could, real quick.
Yes.
It sounds like the issue is between, is it important enough to have that language available before the discussion? If so, you would need to delay the actual decision 2 more weeks. You could release the information after the next council on April 7th, and then bring the discussion back 2 weeks after
Would be a
that.
more
Doesn't it
complete.
get released with the council agenda on a Thursday? The language that you're talking about?
We haven't had a vote yet.
We
The
have to
council
vote
hasn't
to
voted
waive
on it.
Okay.
privilege. Now, we could vote to waive the privilege right before the discussion, and then.
Right.
And then we could talk about it,
And I can have printouts for you, for the public.
printouts and, yeah, something to put on the screen.
I'm saying it would be,
That would be an adequate solution for me. But I think it's just important that the public be able to see the language.
There's a request to move 48. Does that take a motion?
that is already within the consent items. So we will,
No,
Well,
it's,
we need a vote.
you made a motion to continue
continue it.
48 until the next council.
Delay it until 4/7.
Second?
He seconded.
Is he moving the whole agenda though too?
That'll happen.
So
Yeah.
my understanding was that Councilmember Voss was moving item number 2, approving the agenda as presented and/or as amended, with the amendment that the
Amendment.
item would be continued for 2 weeks.
And
And-
Councilman Simonson seconded that motion.
And just to be clear, make sure I understand what council wants, we'll have on the agenda on that item to waive the privilege for the paragraph Councilmember Mandelbaum is talking about as the first item prior to the discussion.
Decide that first, and
Yeah.
then.
Is that
I have no
what
idea
council
Are we
wants?
clear?
Paragraph is.
That's what I understood.
With that,
I'm
there's been
sure.
it's been moved and
We all
seconded.
know.
Please vote.
7 yes.
Motion carries. Next item is number 3, which is the approving the consent agenda. And on the consent agenda, number 5, Voss votes no. Number 5, Coleman wants to speak. 6, 7, 11, and 17, Coleman votes no. 33, Coleman wants to speak. 37, Coleman wants to speak. And Councilman Mandelbaum added number 25 to speak. Do I have all of them? If not, with that, I will take a motion.
Move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, please vote.
7 yes.
Motion carries. Go now to our hearings on vacation of the north-south alley right-of-way adjoining 401 Southeast 7th Street and conveyance of the vacated right-of-way and excess city property locally known as 401 Southeast 7th Street to Newberry Management Company for $376,320. Council Communication Number 25-108. A is first consideration of ordinance above. We allow germane comments from the general public, 2 minutes per person to speak, up to 10 minutes. Is anyone wishing to speak? If not, I need council communicate. If not,
I'll move 40, 48, and pursuant to Rule 42A, I'll waive the second and third reading, sir.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded. Please vote.
You sleeping down there? Move it.
7 yes.
Motion carries. Item 41, on vacation of air, surface, and subsurface rights within portions of East 5th Street right-of-way adjoining 106 East 6th Street and conveyance of a permanent easement for airspace above city-owned property, a permanent easement for surface building encroachment on city-owned property, and a permanent easement for subsurface building encroachment on city-owned property to Des Moines Prep Facilities LLC, $21,596. A is first consideration of ordinance above. B is a final consideration of ordinance above. Waiver requested by Emmanuel Mackey. Manager requires 6 votes. Germaine, comments from the general public? Anyone wishing to speak to this?
Seeing none, Madam Mayor, I'll move item 41, 41A, and 41B.
It's been moved and seconded. Please vote.
7 yes.
Motion carries. On item 42, on conveyance of excess city property located at 515 Southeast 6th Street and vacated north-south alley right-of-way adjoining 515 Southeast 6th Street to 509 Southeast 6th Street LLC, 189,000, council communication number 25-109. Anyone wishing to speak to this?
Seeing none, I will move item 42.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please vote.
Seven yes.
Motion carries. Item 43, on conveyance of a permanent easement for sanitary sewer facilities to Des Moines Metropolitan Wastewater Reclamation Authority for the WRA Southern Tier Interceptor Phase 10, Segment 23 project located at 2600 Hartford Avenue. Anyone wishing to speak to this?
I see none, Your Honor. I'll move item 43.
Is there a sec-
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please vote.
7 yes.
Motion carries. Item 44, on request from Lee M. Mitchell Trust and Margaret V. Mitchell Trust owners, represented by Laura Jorgensen and Colleen Mitchell officers, regarding 2 irregular-shaped parcels located in the vicinity of 1111 Southeast 30th Street to amend Plan DSM Creating Our Tomorrow Comprehensive Plan to revise the future land use classification of the parcels from business park to industrial, and to rezone the parcels from EX Mixed Use District to Limited I-2 Industrial District to bring the existing junk and salvage yard use into conformance with zoning regulations. A is first consideration of the ordinance above. B is final consideration of the ordinance above. Waiver requested by applicant, and it requires 6 votes. First is the parties in interest, applicant for rezoning, and those within 250 feet of the property to be rezoned will be given 5 minutes to speak. Second would be germane comments from the general public, 2 minutes per person. Anyone wishing to speak to this?
I see none, Your Honor. I'll move 44A and B.
It's been moved and seconded. Please vote.
7 yes.
Motion carries. Item 45, on 2024 U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, the council communication number 25-119. Anyone wishing to speak to this? Please state your name and address or ward.
Hello, my name is Adam Callanan. I live in Ward 3. I just wanted to highlight a few things in the HUD CAPER report for 2024. There were a few goals that were not met. The rental units constructed, the goal was 5. Actually, 0 were constructed. The previous year, it was the same. The goal was 5 and 0 were constructed. Households assisted with rapid rehousing, the goal was 35, actual was 27. Something we got close to, but not quite. The previous year, though, the goal was 35 and actual was 0, so we're still kind of behind the ball on that one. Persons assisted with public faculty and infrastructure activity, the goal was 1,600 and the actual was 1,493. I'm glad to see some improvement on this compared to last year's report, but I just wanted to highlight some of the numbers where we're still struggling, because we've talked a lot on this council and in the city about homelessness and the issue around the city, and I think the fact that the city is underperforming at building, housing, and rehabbing housing is an important part of that story. Thank you.
I think Heather would like to speak, if we can get her a microphone.
I can.
I think it was HUD. Oh, hello, my name is Heather Armstrong. I live in Ward 2. I think HUD needs to raise the income that people can make while still qualify for HUD, because they need to raise it up to like at least 50 for one person and 75 for like 2 to a big family, because like the problem is that if you make like, let's say 40,000, you cannot even afford any decent rent around here. And then like the rent would be so high for them that they cannot even afford it. That's the main reason why we have a homeless problem, is because we have people that cannot afford housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Any other speakers? If not,
I don't see anyone else. I'll move item 45, Your Honor.
been moved and seconded. Please vote.
7 yes.
Motion carries. Next item is 46, on a leased cost agreement with Housby Mack, Inc. to replace refuge truck fleet every 2 years for 4 years, not to exceed $2 million annually. Council Communication Number 25-127. Again, germane comments from the general public, 2 minutes per person, up to 10 minutes. Anyone wishing to speak to this?
I was super impressed this morning, and appreciate your team, Scott, everybody that participated. I feel really good about it. If no other comments, I'll move it.
Second.
Please vote.
7 yes.
Motion carries. Next item is 47, on East 33rd Street from University Avenue to Easton Boulevard improvements. Resolution approving plans, specifications, form of contract documents, engineer's estimate, and receive and file bids and designating lowest responsible bidder as Inroads LLC, Joseph J. Manette, CEO, $615,212.10. Council Communication Number 25-120. A is approving contract and bond. The general public may comment only to the plans, specifications, form of documents, engineer's estimate, or low bidder designation, and those will be the only comments to be considered germane. Anyone wishing to speak to this? Just, if you'd like to come, state your name, address, or ward, and you will have 2 minutes.
My name is Dustin Drozd. I live at 1306 East 33rd Street. I'm here to express my opposition to relocating the parking from the east side of East 33rd to the west side of East 33rd. I've lived there almost 28 years. Never had any issues. I've reached out to my neighbors who have signed a petition to stop this relocation of parking to the east side of East 33rd to the west side between Dubuque Avenue and State Street. I have 100% success rate with people who have signed my petition for every resident who opened their door to me, and everyone on East 33rd in this area signed my petition except for one who didn't answer the door. Our primary concerns are the blind spots that will cause when pulling off of Garfield, Mahaska, and State Avenue onto East 33rd, where there is parked vehicles. Mahaska is only crossroad on the east side of East 33rd of the proposed area. We fear that backing out of driveways will not be able to see there are vehicles coming because of parked cars blocking our vision, whereas residents on the east side of East 33rd are elevated to see over vehicles, which is when backing out due to the geology of the land. Another big concern is the elementary school up there, Stowe Elementary. Parents usually park on the east side of the road where there is parking to line up to go pick up their children. And if we didn't have that, I don't know what would happen with them trying to park there to just drop their kids off. And I thank you, but that's my concern.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not,
I just want to make a comment. I appreciate hearing from this resident. This had to do with safety and the closeness, as I recall, and I'll ask Steve to come up and talk, but
The
as
sidewalk.
I recall, it was based because the sidewalks on the west side come right down to the street. And so, and it was not going to be possible to move the sidewalks in. That's the only place. So it was decided, and I know it went through the traffic and transportation, and it was recommended by engineering that the parking be switched just to protect pedestrians that were walking on that side of the street. Am I correct? Am I kind of correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Honorable Mayor, members of City Council, my name is Steve Neighbor, City Engineer, and I got an exhibit up here. We can zoom in here. We had residents reach out. Councilmember Westergaard is correct. The original request was to move the sidewalk back away from the road. We do not have funding to do that. We have funding in this case to actually mill and resurface the road. And so the proposed concept was, as shown here, was to flip the parking from the east side of the road to the west side of the road, which would move the center line further to the east and also create a buffer between that sidewalk that's currently right along the road and the traveling public. In terms of the concerns of the blind spots, there still would be corner clearances. So if you look at, it's maybe a little hard to see, but you see there still are some red no parking restrictions at Garfield and Mahaska for that reason, for the blind spots as you're pulling out of the streets. So.
Thank you, Steve.
Yep.
And what we're doing here, we can always, if we find that it's not proving to be safe, we can always change it.
So yeah, this is actually it changed the ordinance, so it would be literally signage and pavement markings we would change to go back. So.
But I know that there have been many people that asked for that because of the safety.
Yep, this request solely came from residents that walk along there.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're listening to you, but I think we have to try this for the safety reasons because of that sidewalk
Well, it'd be
being
great if
so,
you, yeah.
so
Well,
close. So
Sidewalks on the road.
It's been like that since I've lived there for 28
Yep.
years and all the other residents.
I have pictures of looking at each intersection that's a concern, showing how blind it is to see where you're going. Even if there was cars there, it's definitely going to cause issues. I mean, there's 3 roads.
It's, okay, let's,
University and Dubuque, and there's 1 on the east side of the road. I think people turning are going to not be able to see.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to pass the item, and it was item B, I've lost it. 47 and 47A, but I would ask that we can come back in a year and look at that safety to see how we're doing.
well, the main cost of this, or this proposal, is really repaving.
Right.
It's really repaving. So, sir, we have a motion to move.
Second.
Okay, at this time, please vote.
Seven, yes.
Motion carries.
I've got everybody's signature except for 1 person.
The hearing is over. We end at 5:26. The next item is number 5. Did you want to speak to that?
Oh,
Mr.
thank
Coleman?
you. I have a handout, and Laura's putting it on the board. I'll pass it down the line. There are a couple of items that intersect on what I think is a mushrooming, just an escalation of shops. I have a couple of things to say, and then I'll explain the map. First off, a shout out to Carl, who I think at my first meeting a year ago said, you know, I'm going to carry the banner of Mayor County, who always scrutinized these and voted against many of them. Carl's been out in front on this, so a shout out to you. They're you know, with technology and vape and other things, there is just a huge escalation of these. My house is circled in yellow on the Google map. This is just a screenshot of it.
and you'll see that within about 3/4 of a mile, there's 11 different vape shops that operate. These tend to be places that are not very respectful of the neighborhood around them. Their lighting, their hours are a real nuisance to the neighborhood. There was a flash point on a, what's a relatively residential neighborhood at Franklin and Beaver, where a store has significant lighting that literally you can see for blocks away. And as I began to look at it, and I should acknowledge that city staff has already started an enforcement action against that particular one because their lights are so far beyond what is in our code, and hopefully that fixes it up. But in looking at this, and I read some of the state code about it, I talked to our city attorney, Jeff, about it. This is governed by a lot of state law and license to operate. There are special taxes. The taxes went up this year to seemingly 40%. I want to come back to that. I know in zoning regulations, it's hard not to grandfather people in or to do things. But under the state law, each of these facilities have a license that expires on June 30th. So as I understand it, let me underscore that, as I understand it, that when we give somebody a license, it lasts until June 30th, and then they're all renewed then under the state law. We have a window of time where we could establish some new rules so this escalation of these around the city. By the way, we passed 5 different ones earlier in one way or another, one in all of our wards if you look at the different actions in front of us. I think there's things that we could do to better protect the neighborhood about signage. I think the degree to which they're lit up, bright, focused out on the streets are a nuisance, and we have an obligation to our residents, even to the safe traffic that is around these places, to clean that up. I think there's ways where we could insist on other items. There's a lot of regulations about hours and so forth of business operations that we have, including bars and liquor license establishments. And I also think the council has had a history of providing buffers between different kinds of, spaces where you can not allow a new use or a new license to be granted within a certain distance of one another. And I think because they have to be renewed at June 30th, there could be a way that we could intersect the licensing process to make it more difficult to get a license. And if you look at those that have been applied for over the last 6 or 8 weeks, they're on every major corridor in town. And, Linda and Joe in particular, tonight we had, a handful of them on there. And as you drive around your neighborhood, you'll be amazed at it. So I'd like to refer this to the manager and the attorney. I'd be happy to add some time myself if I could from a policy standpoint, but I'd like to see a report back in, 30 to 45 days so that we're ahead of the June 30th. I don't know if that'll work or not, but it's an idea. I'm not going to get into the fact that I think some of the messaging and the attractiveness of this goes against what I think is healthy in neighborhoods where they're heavy pedestrian, and but I think that should be a consideration for why there is specific regulations or hours. The last thing that I'd say, and I don't see the police chief here, is I did this weekend with a buddy go in and pretend like I was shopping. And I asked about the new tax on all this items that were started, I think at the first of the year. There's a 40% tax on it. And a couple of the shops told me, nobody pays the tax, there's a workaround on it. And it's a way they manipulate the glass to make sure that it doesn't get a 40% tax. I'd like to know, and maybe there's a legislative fix as the session winds down,
that we could get so it's not as easy to manipulate. Josh?
I second what you're talking about. I think this is a worthwhile. I know Iowa City has passed some changes that when they did a while back, I sent that to the city attorney and asked, can that be a basis for action here in Des Moines? So hopefully some of the things
That's great to hear.
you're asking about are already a little ways down the path, but I support looking into this and doing the things that we can. And I think some of what Iowa City actually emphasized was looking at, they were trying to keep these type of shops away, particularly from, I think, schools and
young
parks and places where we want to protect potentially vulnerable populations. And so I'm broadly supportive of looking into this, and I'm glad you raised it. And I think I think there are things that we can do, and we should look at all of them.
Okay. Councilman.
Chris, could you explain what the D, B, and H
yeah,
are, please?
I'm sorry, I should have done that. Just for reference map-wise, D at the top is Douglas Avenue. On the bottom, H is Hickman. So that's a mile between those two. On the left is Merle Hay, and the B is Beaver Avenue. So that's the area that's within about 3/4 of a mile of my house. And what I just used the Google, to say vape shops near me, and that's what popped up.
I think it would be wise for us all to look at it, because Ward 2, it's every other block.
I don't know. It's a mystery to me how they're making money, because there's so many of them, but this, we need to put our best thinking about how to be creative.
We will be coming
So-
back. I think everybody has a consensus. Everybody wants to look into it, because I think everybody sees it up and down the streets.
Yeah, I can move item, no, I'm not going to move it, because I'm going to vote against them, but you can. 5, 6, and 7.
We only pulled
I'll move item
5 for
to start with.
discussion.
Okay,
We only put 5 for discussion, because we
He
already,
voted no on 6 and 7.
okay,
I'll move item 5.
yeah,
Somebody just needs a second.
I'm not going to say.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
okay, please vote. Motion carries.
5 yes, 2 no.
Next item up, I think, item 25. Councilman Mandelbaum.
Yeah, I pulled this because I realized after our discussion this morning on the budget and the sustainability, that I maybe needed to provide a little more guidance in terms of what I was hoping to see the city manager do and come back with. And in conversations that I'd had, and I know the manager wants flexibility to look at options. I think Councilmember Coleman called it keep on turning stones. My hope is, and what I had been doing in my own personal stone turning, which I think the manager wanted a little more flexibility than my prescriptive identifying the things that I would just get rid of. I was shooting for about 100 to 120,000, which would be in the neighborhood of, not quite 40% of what the current sustainability budget is. So it's still a 60% haircut, but my hope was that we had that level of commitment to sustainability to being able to be able to actually continue and engage and show some demonstration. And I had found things that I personally would be willing to cut to get to that 120. But I think it would be helpful to get the manager's best recommendation in that regard. And so my hope is that we see something, or at least a series of options that include something up to that 100 and 120,000 towards sustainability. And so that is the direction as we set this hearing that I was hoping to provide. And I'd like to maybe make that formally a part of this, that I'd like to see that type of option, even if there are multiple options provided, an option for how the manager's best recommendation for how we would get to that level of funding for sustainability. And so I would add that to item 25A, B, and C as we set the hearing.
Yeah, I'll second that and ask for,
Yeah, if I could, real quick. I think the key here is that this doesn't have to happen. We're not, to proceed, to find the savings and add the expense of a like amount does not impact the property tax that was the hearing this morning. And
Right.
so the timeline to make this change is best incorporated in the final budget documents that would become public in June, not the state documents that you're going to be approving on April 7th. And so what I would ask is that we have time to work through this, exactly identifying where the cuts would be made, such that for the final budget documents, we have an answer for you, not in 2 weeks. That would be.
that's good with me.
difficult. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that to be prescriptive as to the amount right now is not, because to find this here is going to take from this there, and I think we need to have the ability to look at things, because it might not be 120, it might be 75, or it might be 45, whatever. So I don't believe it's the right way to start saying, I want 120 here, when we don't know what else we're going to cut, and there might be somebody that opposes that cut. So I think to be prescriptive
Well,
for one specific thing, I appreciate, because we all want to figure out, because we do have a plan on sustainability, but to be prescriptive to a certain amount,
I just want the best thinking for that amount.
I can provide that.
And I mean, there might be other options, but I think that is what I've been trying to, and so I'm trying to both,
what?
express how strongly I feel, but not be prescriptive and not push some of the other pieces that I've identified. So the amount is the piece that, and having an option, and I'm okay waiting till June.
The idea would be that both the new revenues, the revenue shift would occur, and the new contract, if that's where we're going to head, would be implemented for July 1st.
Yep.
That I can work with.
And have we all received the plan that has Malcolm Hankins has put together on how things are going to be dealt with internally?
We'll use that document
Okay.
as a starting point.
If not, we will get that out to everybody again.
Yeah. It was pretty preliminary.
It was moved.
I think it was moved and seconded.
Okay, then who seconded?
Second on it, Laura? Was there a
Okay,
second?
please vote. Sorry, after some discussion, sometimes you forget.
7, yes.
Okay, the next item is, I believe, 33. Councilman Coleman?
I pulled off item 33 to just make a couple comments to the council, maybe more so than the public. I'm looking forward to voting yes on this tonight, just in terms of what I'm going to do. But as you can imagine, a project like this is not without controversy in the neighborhoods and the businesses around there. And as I've talked about how to bring people together, a little nod to Chris Johansson, who in a conversation, we remembered that a lifetime ago, when there was the possibility of an ethanol plant in Des Moines, we created what we called a good neighbor agreement between the company and the neighbors around there for how might the neighborhood and the entity work together. Des Moines Supportive Housing has, kind of agreed to work with the neighborhoods around there, and we've invited a handful of businesses and representative of the neighborhoods and the 6th Avenue Safety Group and the 6th Avenue Corridor to come together in a planning process. Chris's team in neighborhood services would kind of coordinate the process, but I think it would kind of culminate into, some good understanding and agreements about what would make the neighborhood feel good about the process going forward. So I think that's a really good step forward, and I hope it's a process by which people can kind of come together and say, okay, I have a relationship with the agency, I know they're accessible, and I can see that if they can do X, Y, and Z, this can be a project that can live, in concert with the goals that they have for their own neighborhoods. I hope that works, and that's the goal, but I wanted to let the council know that that is a really important thing to me, because the neighbors, have a lot of just concerns about what it means for the quality of their neighborhood. And I think that we can alleviate that with good communication and kind of setting clear expectations for what it will be like, but also for the neighborhood to be able to set some expectations for the organization, entity, the facility. So I'm pretty happy that people are going to participate. I don't know what will come out of it. I'm going to let the staff coordinate it, but I wanted everybody to know. And anybody that wants to be kept apprised of it, I'm sure the staff will keep us all in the loop. Chris and Heather are going to be primary on it, and I think it's a good strategy. And I think if it works, it's the kind of thing that we could replicate other places when we have controversial projects. So I'll move it. You haven't read it yet, Mayor, but can I move it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want me to read?
No, I don't want you to, but I shouldn't have.
Happy to second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Please vote.
Did
7,
you want to
yes.
speak, Emily?
Not unless there are questions. I think that's a great idea, and we look forward to working with the neighbors and having discussions and awareness. And
Just to let people know, this is about supportive housing at the Holiday Inn, and a huge measure to help when we talk about people and coming out of homelessness. So this is a project that is moving forward with these dollars, and we believe is a great asset for a lot of people and their needs. So the next item was 37 that I think you wish to, that's proclaiming trick or treat night to be on Halloween night, October 31st in the city of Des Moines.
Yes.
Probably more response on this survey than we've had on anything, so.
100% of the people love this or hate it. I was just going to mention, this was kind of a region-wide. We did the survey. I think all of you guys helped promote the survey. And as a region, we're trying to move to one date, and it's a good way for us to show some kinship with all of our suburban partners.
So is everyone,
There are two that are still doing
there's two
Saturday night
outliers.
before, but everybody, I think, was, from what we've been told, we're going to Halloween night instead of Beggar's Night.
gotcha.
I don't think anybody's staying on the 30th.
Right,
What's,
They're doing the
the
Saturday,
night before.
the Saturday night before after.
okay,
So there were two that had already changed, I believe.
okay.
But in the most part, it was confusing for people that live on our boundaries or whatever, that
I think this is an excellent idea, and
it was
did you
part of
move
our MAC
37?
council.
I'll move it.
And I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Please vote.
7, yes.
Motion carries. The next item has been moved.
Continue that.
That one's going to 4-7.
So 49 is the public speaking portion. That we provide speakers under the public speaking portion the opportunity to address the council for up to 3 minutes each for up to 20 speakers for a total of 1 hour agenda. Speakers will be called forward individually, and we ask everyone to please state their name, address, or ward prior to providing comments. Please keep comments germane and avoid references to personalities or character attacks, as those types of comments do not contribute to the purpose for which this public forum exists. As a reminder to the council and the public, this public speaking time is not a time for the council to engage in discussion. Matters requiring attention will receive appropriate staff and/or council follow-up at a time after the meeting. Thank you for your interest in the city, and Thomas Hayes is our first speaker.
Hi, my name is Thomas Hayes, and I am privileged to represent 1,200 members of Laborers Local 177. Our office is in the city of Des Moines in Ward 2. Our members have worked on the projects that have built the city of Des Moines for many years. Our members, along with other trade members, made fair wages and benefits working on the projects. The projects became fewer every year as contractors and subcontractors that win the projects are not doing the things above board. If the council would make sure the city worked with us in the trades to ensure certain things in the development agreements on projects with city public funds, this would ensure residents of the city of Des Moines would have safe, secure work sites to protect any resident from harm. Furthermore, could make the projects worked more by local contractors, ensuring local workers. This would keep the revenue flowing into the city of Des Moines with workers from local area. Example of these items for these projects would be wage theft, misclassification, proper safety standards, combat tax fraud with the fact the city could ask for certified payroll, lists of subcontractors. I would like to add that during discussions with the council over these changes, that they made comments about the state already has organizations in the place of this. That would be completely inaccurate. Those organizations count on employees, residents, and even local government to make them aware of such issues. Also, I heard it would be an extra cost to the city. There might be a small cost, but there are plenty of trades, employees, and residents to look at these projects and would report to the proper state authorities and to the city if the city had teeth in how the project would lose funding if not holding to the agreement. Last but not least, the city of Des Moines is the largest city in Iowa, claimed to be the most progressive. So the city of Des Moines should be focused on setting the standards, not worrying about the local communities around it, but setting those standards. We, in the trades, will push those other areas in the metro area to try to push for the same standards. But we got to start somewhere, and it should start with the most progressive city in Iowa. Thank you.
Thank you. Heather Armstrong.
Hello, my name is Heather Armstrong, and I'm encouraging the council to go to Chicago and strengthen their council, because their council doesn't pass anything, and they're not even flying right, including their mayor, Mayor Johnston, which I think I grade him an F-, even though I don't live there anymore. They need to get a grip with their city, because their city is falling into billions and billions of dollars in debt. So, maybe you guys need to, go there and see what they're doing wrong, because there's 50 wards, and the mayor doesn't even join these meetings, and when the mayor is the 51st, or the tying to break the tie. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Adam Callanan.
Hello, my name is Adam Callanan. I live in Ward 3. I'm here also today with Des Moines People's Town Hall. So I want to talk a bit about the city budget. The city budget is boosting the police budget while cutting pretty much all other areas of the budget. The DMPD budget this year is going from 85 to 88 million, increasing 3 million. The city is also planning a new modernized police station, although there hasn't been a public vote about this. And this number, at least to my understanding, does not include the various settlements that we paid out in the past or are going to pay out very soon related to police misconduct. The city is refusing to give updates on progress of DMPD reform recommendations that the city paid multiple consultants for. Many of these recommendations would save money. At the same time, we just learned that CIS, the downtown homeless shelter, the major homeless shelter in the area, is cutting homeless service. Even after all of the fanfare around new city initiatives on homelessness, there has not been much transparency to what homeless programs have been cut by the city. We also know the Sustainability Office was cut without public vote. So zooming out a bit to the broader city budget, at the budget workshop, various council members complained that they didn't have enough detail from the city manager on actual programs and what we were cutting, what we weren't. I just want to point out that if the council doesn't even have enough transparency into the city business and the contracts, the public certainly does not have enough transparency into these things. Many of these budget issues would be less of a problem if they were taken seriously long ago, and this is not a surprise problem. The city knew that they were going to have a budget shortfall this year and has known for years. As an aside, once this budget is passed, the city manager's office will start our next year's budget, so it's always budget season. It's always a good time to be talking about this. And I wanted to talk about one specific example of a thing that could have been done proactively. So on March 27th, 2023, Councilmember Mandelbaum was standing up for unnecessary spending regarding the Walnut Street Bridge replacement. On August 7th, Mandelbaum and Voss both wanted to save money by instead turning the Walnut Street Bridge into a walking biking bridge. They lost 4-2. And on January 8th, 2024, Council approved $19 million for this project. Our shortfall is $17 million. The full amount wouldn't have saved, I don't want to imply that fully, the full amount wouldn't have just magically saved that $19 million, but obviously this would have saved us some money that we could have used to cover this shortfall, and we really should have been thinking about that at the time, these unnecessary projects that could have saved our city a lot of money and prevented a lot of these cuts. Other things on the city budget that I wanted to touch on is that this really has been turned into, again, this should have been handled proactively, it's really turned into a last-minute budget shift that has become an opportunity to kind of make these decisions in secret behind closed doors. We just heard the city is apparently planning on not even finalizing the budget when they propose the budget to the state, but shifting that until June. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's really unusual, and it just, again, sounds like we're running afoul of just making things known to the public, keeping things transparent, and it's just alarming that the city keeps heading down this path. Thank you.
Your Honor, I'll move 49A, B, and C to receive and file.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please vote.
7 yes.
Okay, and with that, I would say that this meeting is adjourned. Sorry, I didn't take a vote for it.